Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much indeed for staying to the end this afternoon. Last but not least of our presentations today, we've got someone who I really wanted to get in and give us an understanding as to where the market is, what's going on from a slightly different perspective. Pelham has always been someone who has given that different perspective and whose views I widely respect. And that's why I'm very pleased that he can come and talk to us this afternoon. So it's Pelham Rowe from one of the many, many hats that you wear, but I'll let you explain that to the audience as you introduce yourself. Pelham, it's you. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you very much. Hello and welcome. Thank you for staying. This is exactly the right size of audience I want because I am not a natural speaker. In fact, normally I'm on the other end of these things. Normally I'm asking questions, convening panels. And so this is exactly the right sort of audience that I want. And it's a great pleasure to be here at the NEC. This is a fantastic distributor community from the West Midlands that has built up over many years. So it's great to be here. Before I introduce myself in my many hats, I want to basically reassure you that I have a message for everybody. I have a message if you're an end customer. I have a message if you're an OEM. I have a message if you're a distributor. And the message I have is about convergence. Now I know some of you will have heard lots of fantastic presentations today about threat vectors, threat landscape, and that wonderful 10, 15-year-old term convergence. But I want to approach it in a slightly more practical level. So why me and why am I talking to you? So yes, one time I used to be a civil servant in various roles, but for the last 12 years I've been running conferences in the defense and security space. So normally what I'm trying to do is blend people together, introduce them, get buyers and sellers to actually meet each other, all the way back from running delegations around DSEI to today before you here. And I like to bring people together, and so that's why I'm really grateful for Philip Ingram for kindly inviting me here today. Honoured to be speaking on the same day as Professor Simon Fraser, Surveillance, Camera and Biometrics Commissioner. What an honour, because usually I would be really chuffed to have him on a programme. I mentioned before that today I want to talk to you about convergence, but what I want to reassure you is that it's not me trying to convince you to become a super script kiddie hacker. It's me trying to speak to the mercantile person within you. I want the end customer to realize that the interlocutor they're going to be speaking with in the next few years is very different to some of these tried and tested West Midlands distributors who are great, but from the distributor perspective and from the EP perspective, the private security perspective, I want you to see that bundling new and innovative products of a certain nature with or without a friend, and we'll get on to who that friend is, could be where we should go in the coming years. First off, I work with bodyguards, I work with managed service providers. It's quite a spectrum, but what I do know is that many of the distributors here do not go to managed service provider events. Why would they? It sounds alien. You're either doing close protection, you're doing alarm system bundling, you're offering CCTV solutions. So why would you go to IT Nation, IT Connect and meet managed service providers? I want to put to you that many events simply don't understand how wide the channel and channel distribution has become. So I know that some of the OEMs in the CCTV world set this event up, right? So I'm conscious that I have to speak to many different audiences. So what I want to do, and I wanted to actually write greed, but actually I thought opportunities is a bit more positive. I want to talk to you about opportunities for existing resellers and distributors, but the fear of the competition of a hitherto unobserved group, the IT managed service provider. And you'll say, this just sounds alien. And in fact, I've got a very weird picture of a dog looking at a cat in that same fashion coming up. But I also want to reassure you that fear of obsolescence, where you have to bundle security in to protect yourself, that's nothing new, and that's something you've been hearing about all day. And that fear is what I'm trying to get across to you, that events like this have to change, because distribution models are getting a little bit more easier because of a little thing called AI and automation. Managed service providers, the types of people that you don't speak to, are bundling all of the things that you're bundling. They're bundling CCTV, access control, identity and access management, biometrics, and they're doing it in a way that means they don't have any expertise. So we'll get onto it. But of course, servicization and the moving your model from a break-fix model, and let's think that you're an end customer, having the one-stop shop or the one throat to choke is not a new idea. I just plucked this wonderful front cover from Security Dealer and Integrator magazine from 2018, trying to convince the alarm system distributors that in fact having a suite of services with repeat business was the way forward. Would we disagree anymore that this is natural? This is natural, isn't it? Everybody wants repeat business. You want to be able to predict for the future. So it's not new. But what I would say is that just as you want to add value to your customer, and you know them best, you've got this 50-mile sweet spot, there's a reason why this event finds itself in Birmingham again. It's because this is the home of the distribution network in the UK. Actually, it's also easy for everyone to get to as opposed to other venues. We won't mention them. But there's an opportunity for you to become even more customer-centric and make more value-added relationships as opposed to one and done. Now, many of you will say, hang on, this seems too difficult. I'm busy bundling the latest CCTV solution, or I've got the new key guard system for this new building, and just bundling IT security or another type of security would be too difficult for me. Well, it was too difficult for the old costermonger. The evolution of distribution is one of flexibility. I was actually discouraged from coming on stage with a nice cravat and saying £2 bananas, but actually the costermonger today might as well be a managed service provider. The costermonger is selling all manner of things, and you can as well. And one of the things that you might fear is, I don't have the expertise. But I'll give you some lightning case studies as to where expertise in this sector isn't quite what you think it is. So, wholesale commerce, of course, has existed since antiquity. Everything is more and more flexible, and servicization is nothing new, as I said. Let me give you, because I'm sure some of you are thinking, I have no idea about the IT distributor model because I don't work in it. But if I give you a quick flavour of how it came to be in its present form, you'll probably say, hang on, that sounds a bit like me and my OEM. In the 1950s, the OEM in the IT market thought to themselves, hang on, I can bundle other people's OEM solutions. And it was in the 50s that the original systems integrators were born. In the 1970s, they thought to themselves, hang on, I can not just bundle hardware, but also software, and I can upgrade it at a price, at a premium, as a service. And so everyone thought, well, hang on, that's perfect to add value, and the value-added reseller was born in the current form. The 1980s, franchising. Many of these OEMs will remember franchising models from the 80s, but actually, when IBM did it, some of the initial franchisees thought to themselves, I'm quite powerful. I can bundle more things. I don't need to be tied to my OEM. And so our solution integrators really did evolve, and people decided that they could bundle other services, which is where I'm speaking not just to the distributor, but also our colleagues from EP. You can bundle so many more services if you just open your eyes, including, of course, repair, consultation, installation, training. This is something that the OEMs do themselves. But I'm warning you that some of the OEMs out there that you know and love are looking beyond traditional distributors as we see them here, and they're looking with green eyes at some of the managed service providers to distribute their wares. Let's take a step back, because that's a little bit too fast, too quickly perhaps. And let me be honest, I am saying that you can partner with these people. I'm not telling you to fear them. A lot of speeches today will have focused on the threat landscape, and again it will talk about regulation, regulation, regulation. I don't doubt that's important. And many people will tell you that 1,000,001 phishing attempts have happened. I don't doubt that's important. But if I'm an end customer, I'm going to get pretty confused at the people I'm going to have to do business with in the coming years, because I'm used to talking to these guys and girls. I'm used to going straight to the OEM. But if I give some statistics from 3 different categories, from 3 different surveys, which I think are noteworthy. 1 is the category of the future of work, 2 is the category of smart buildings, and 3 is the general physical landscape, security landscape observations. I think you'll come to see why, as an end customer, an OEM, a distributor, you're going to have to start to think opportunistically about what you can bundle and use, but also worry about some other class of distributor that you have no communication with at the moment. So, according to Omnia's 2021 Future of Work survey, which is pretty authoritative in this field, 22% of employees will continue to use a hybrid working environment, and 36% will be minimally in the office. So many people have painted a stark security picture for you today. That's one thing I wanted to set as context. Genetech, I do understand Genetech might have a reason for coming up with this, but Genetech's 2022 Trends survey said that occupancy and space utilization will decrease throughout this year. Cybercrime is forcing traditionally physical security solutions, including our friends in AP, to react to cyber threats, not because the cyber threats are new, but the types of technology that you're being forced to bundle and use, that you've seen here, creates such a stream of data that you need continuous verification. It creates so many different entry points that is really going to force the physical security specialists to adapt. Genetech also reckon, no surprise here, intelligent buildings will require intelligent security. Businesses will expect more from their access control, and we'll get on to what more might mean, because some people can provide more and some people cannot, or may not be able to. And there's a stronger focus on supply chain operations. And then my last wonderful statistic thing from the ONTIC 2022 state survey, they had their ONTIC forum in Texas just the other week. 88% of corporations believe that companies are experiencing a dramatic increase in physical threat activity. Yeah, possibly there's a bias in there because you want some business out of it, but 85% predict, and this is the key thing, that the data and the pre-indication data that is generated by everything that you are using here is going to become unmanageable by 2022. So you're going to want a value-added reseller or a distributor that can not just bundle, but also manage that data and help you really use it. Meanwhile, all of this threat landscape, the managed service providers of the world, they have noticed, right? Managed service providers, according to Kaseya, 73% of MSPs last year dramatically increased their revenue by bundling security solutions. Now possibly you're saying to me, hang on, but that's pure play IT security. But wait, it's not. They're also bundling things that you know and love that we're seeing here today. By the way, Gartner's report into access management technology came up with a lovely list of Magic Quadrant companies. I'm mentioning these companies because they're in the Magic Quadrant. I'd have no skin in the game. But if I was to say access management, do these names pop into your mind? CyberArk, ForgeRock, Elantus, Microfocus, Microsoft, Okta, OneLogin, Oracle, Ping Identity, and Talos. I don't think they do, because that's a different world, isn't it? So, what I've been talking about is the world of the IT managed service provider. And what I think we should first understand is that the MSS and the MSP come from 2 different worlds. Just as executive protection, camera systems, training and development that we see all around us come from different worlds. The managed service provider are set up by people who thought that making a little bit of money out of IT management would be a good idea. They could equally be doing ice cream as a service. That's how much like the costermonger they are. Whereas some of the managed service, security service providers in the cyberspace, like Optiv and Kudelski and NCC Group, or Softcat, or there's lots of them, right? They are pure play cybersecurity focused. They're intent on becoming the best architects that they can. And here's the thing, some of these words I'm even giving to you, it might make you go, architect? Cyber? That's not me. But wait, you see, it might sound counterintuitive, much as this wonderful, and to me it was humorous at the time, dog looking at the cat, cat looking at the dog. One should be there, one shouldn't be there. One's outside, one's inside. This is the relationship between the managed service provider and the managed security service provider. Business people, they go where the money is, and that, I would argue, is a lot of the distributors out there. They're in it, yes, security is good fun and fulfilling, but they're in it to make money, as opposed to some of the pure play tech people who are in it to create beautiful cameras or beautiful access management systems. It's the same dynamic. They're the go-between between tech providers. So MSPs have basically spotted a gap in the market, and it's not a huge jump, because as I said earlier, you might think, hang on, MSP, cyber, it's all about firewalls. No, they have started to bundle CCTV, passkeys, photo ID systems. If they're your trusted advisor, and if the equipment that you're managing and distributing is getting more complex, they are a more logical place for you. Who do they target? They target the SMB. Who does the why are we in the West Midlands? Because we're in the home of some of the big, most important SMBs in the country. It's the same market. So let's do some quick lightning case studies. They're lightning because I can't give you too much detail, otherwise you can find out who they are. One software provider is going out there and telling managed service providers that with just their software as a service, they can transform into a managed security service. Now, a lot of the MSS players, this is awful to their ears. They say, how can you do that? With just some SaaS, you become an MSS. Well, they can do it because a lot of the systems are automated, which means for the end customer, this is going to create a really weird person to talk to. It's not your usual person. You're busy buying solutions from one area. So anyway, this company, based out of Santa Clara, founded 2015, they got a whole suite ranging from 8x5 monitoring solutions at $30 per user per device, all the way through to 24/7 active threat hunting at $100 per user per device. That's a hell of a lot cheaper than some of the pure play MSS. But let's make another case study a little bit more relevant to you. We heard that CCTV is getting a lot easier for them to fire and forget. And this is a problem because they have all of the SMB and more customers that you might have. Now, there's one tool founded in 2016 in the Bay Area. It's a famous story. The guy his neighbor had a home invasion or whatever, and he thought, you know what? Let's set up some automated CCTV that creates automated metrics and reporting, and let's make it available to more people. Of course, there's a mercantile relationship there. He will make more money if it gets distributed to more MSPs. And there are more MSPs in the States than there are this type of security vendor. But I am aware that some OEMs here play second tier, and it's very nice dynamic. But anyway, he set up this remote monitoring tool using AI. Whether or not you believe AI exists or not, that's not the point. It's automated, so you don't need the skills to have it in-house. And their MSP partners just couldn't ignore the lucrative opportunity in just bundling it. Now, you'll see in a bit that I'm not proposing to you that you have to set up a whole IT network for your customers. There are these wonderful AI tools that you can fire and forget, and they're still making a lovely bit of commission on top of each of the cameras, even in maintenance. But even here, there's a household name. I don't know if they're here, but there's a household name, 175 years old, Key Solutions, physical security, man guarding. They've come up with a specific product since 2015, not for the distributors that we know and love in the West Midlands, but managed service providers. That's a bit weird, but they're quite dynamic because they've offered this security software as a service for everybody. They'd be pleased to hear from man guarding companies as well. They'd be pleased to hear from EP. They'd be pleased to hear from OEMs. But they've got a solution for managed service providers, the type of people that you don't talk to because you don't think it's important. And then finally, there's an American one, quite big. It keeps on buying other companies. We won't name any names. Founded in the 1950s, man guarding, pure play man guarding, really averse to technology. It started to buy lots of interesting business units. Yes, you could cynically say as a golden gate, as a loss leader, so that they can bring in more products for more lucrative man guarding products. I don't know. But they've been offering managed security services to enterprise and SMB since 2018. How they do it? They bought one company in 2016, one company in 2018. Maybe they're doing it as a loss leader. just as maybe they've bought EP as a loss leader. I don't know. Anyway, that's not for me to say. So, a little bit of a tour de force around there. Hopefully the lightning case studies bring what this abstract thing is I'm trying to say to life. But you might say, well, why is this possible in the first place? I'm an end customer, I don't care. Well, you do care because the person you're speaking to, your trusted value-added reseller, can't give you what you wanted in the past. And if you're a distributor, suddenly you're thinking, this is unfair. Managed service providers have a network infrastructure unlike anything I've got. I just have my customer relationships and installers, and they know all of the different ISOs for the different CCTVs. It's fantastic, but it's unfair. Well, AI gives you a bit of an edge because they have built solutions that are also for you fire and forget. They've built things that mean that it's only serviced by the OEM. And as long as they are taking advantage of your network, everybody's a distributor. If I'm an EP firm out of Denmark, for example, if I'm a manager of a hotel group where I'm interested in security, it doesn't matter. You can transform yourself into a distributor, internally or externally. Follow the money, which is a quote by Richard Tubb from Tubb Talk. It's big for IT consultants. And the money says, IDC, you probably know IDC from other events, AI, remote monitoring and management tools, because that's what they are. The market will top 77 billion this year. And it's only going to get bigger because a huge benefit is that it's condition-driven automation. Condition-driven automation, it's just another word for saying bundle it, take a bit of a revenue off the top, and forget, because this is another revenue stream. And on the customer side, yeah, you don't need to go and service someone next time, I don't know, a camera breaks down. Some of the cameras speak back to the manufacturers. And on the back end, get rid of repetitive task automation, AI auto-tagging, billing and invoicing. There are lots of benefits to purported AI and automation. I'm not saying AI has to be conscious. I'm not saying AI has to be sentient. All I'm saying is that condition-driven automation, whatever form it takes, is very useful. So, where does this leave you? You're a physical security distributor, you're a physical security OEM, you're a physical security end customer that's looking at all this and saying, how does this make sense? How could I build a proper security stack? Well, you could attempt to build a cybersecurity stack, and you could attempt to build the infrastructure, just like an MSS, you could. And if you did want to do that, then you're going to have to think about what you're protecting. Are you protecting the perimeter? So things like firewalls and VPNs and spam and things that maybe are very familiar to everyone. Are you protecting endpoints? That's quite lucrative per head. Are you protecting information at rest? What about backup and disaster recovery? IT, Glue, Barracuda, others exist, okay? And by the way, many of those are available for you without you to build your own infrastructure internally, but that's kind of what I was saying before. Or do you want to go the whole hog, 24/7 SIEM monitoring? I don't know. It's possible. Requires investment. But you know what? If I was you, I'd dip my toe into the water a little bit more gently. I would start to offer things. So we've heard earlier today some great training providers. Why don't we start to offer some training? Now, I'm not saying the type of training where you go in and you get all the internal content from your customer, you put it through an LMS and you sell it back to them, because that's unfair, that's a little bit unethical. I'm talking about developing your own training, whether it is training for your OEM device, which might come for free, which you're already doing if you're an OEM, but if you're a distributor, maybe you can add more value. What about pen testing as a service? I'm not talking about the $100,000 and more pen test. I mean just something a little bit more simple for your SMB market. What about TSCM, technical surveillance countermeasures? You don't have to do it. The who you're going to call strategy is for everyone, as long as you make these wonderful connections. GDPR compliance might sound boring, people still need it. Thinking ahead to the future, digital identity security consultancy, that's another idea. As people move towards an immutable digital identity, and as currency may or may not move to a central bank digital currency, that's going to be a hot topic. How on earth would you, as a wholesaler or as a retailer, deal with that kind of data? I don't know, but I'm sure there's a pretty penny in consulting to existing customer base about it. Or you could go a bit further, but not as far to become an MSS, and start to white label someone else's MSS. And this is where things, you can sigh, because you remember the who you're going to call strategy. There are managed security service providers out there that want to be white labeled, and you don't have to be fearful that they're going to steal your lunch. They're not interested in fixing printers. They're not interested in fixing cameras. They're interested in reaching a bigger market, and they don't have to use their own name. Now, let's say it was one of the big players, it would be in your interest to say, I'm bundling such and such, but they are doing it, and that means you don't have the big outlay for infrastructure. And yes, you could try and become an MSS yourself. So where does this leave convergence? Convergence at the beginning, I said, doesn't mean you have to become a super script kiddie, ninja, EP, kidnap and ransom specialist. It doesn't mean that. 10 years ago, maybe people had this idea that we had to have the one converged discipline, and people frequently say, if you're in medicine, do you start off as an oncologist? I'm like, okay, that's a good point, fair, but I don't care. What I care about as an outside observer is where do we go now? And all it means is you need to know the number of the oncologist. Let's dispel that single expert idea. Let's remember that your customer has evolved to such an extent that there are very few pure play CISOs. Nobody wants the job of a CSO or a CISO. It's a target on their back. And why would they? It's just a scapegoat. More often than not, your customer will find themselves as a team. So the decision-making unit is a bit more of a pain, I know, but it's a team. And in convergence, you need to think of it less of cyber and physical, because you do that dynamic and you think, oh no, I need to go to Hackers Academy. I need to do Harvard CS50 and learn the fundamentals of computer programming. No, it's much more all-encompassing. It's IT and it's OT, but it's also getting to know actuarial science, risk management, HR, executive protection. So, where does this leave us? I've done a bit of a tour de force, and as an outside person looking in, what I'm basically saying is it's remiss of me not to say this to OEMs, to distributors, to end user practitioners. It's remiss of me not to say that there's opportunities for you, but there's also some fear factor. And the fear factor is you can say that all my predictions will not come true, but the one thing you can't say that isn't true is that IT managed service providers are out there bundling your stuff right now to a bigger, well, maybe bigger, customer base. So I would say, I would come away from this and say, are there any cyber MSS players who are also potential partners? Maybe I'm an OEM, I can offer a service with my camera and some sort of MSS. Maybe I'm a physical security consultant. Maybe I can bundle this thing, because the MSS community, believe it or not, are not here to steal your lunch. They are here to help you. That's different when we're talking about managed service providers. I do understand that, but the MSS community could be your friend. You could ask yourself, is there a market for entry-level to mid-tier security services of this nature in my geo, the 50-mile sweet spot around the West Midlands? You could do some market research. And we talked about servitization not being new. If it's not new, how far can I take it before, in a big economic collapse, it doesn't work anymore? How much is my outlay into a servitized business model? Can I still make money? Can I still revert to break fix and individual project work? Because you always want a little bit of give and take there. Am I going to the right event? I would argue today you're at the right event. Right? This is the beautiful nature about this event in Birmingham, but you could also consider some of the IT distribution events that you don't normally go to. What training will get me far enough to be knowledgeable? I'm never going to be dangerous, right? Me, even talking to you, I'm a generalist. I organized over 300 events since 2010 in this field. So I'm basically a generalist saying to you that you too can be generalists and be dangerous enough to know who to call. And then people might say that buyers are liars, but what else are you going to do? you need to do proper market research. And I know that is a bit hard to hear, because you might phone up your customer and say, would you buy this type of camera system with this extra feature? And they go, absolutely. You go to the trouble of bundling it and they go, yeah, no. That's always possible, but doing better market research in this area is what I'm trying to get you to do. So, thank you for joining this tour de force. It's been a great pleasure to speak to you, and I hope it's given you some more questions to ask.
Any burning questions now for Helen? Helen, thank you very much indeed. You gave me the tour de force that I was expecting and that I wanted, and got us thinking things from a completely different perspective. And the MSS approach is something that actually I hadn't considered before. So thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, the program starts tomorrow morning again, back in here, and we've got another full day of excellent content. Thank you very much indeed.